Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a reverse dyed center burst shirt. This shirt is a Gildan brand shirt and it's 100% cotton, but it almost looks like it's a little bit of a heathered shirt, so it has a little darker fleck in the red. The red is not quite a burgundy, but with that darker fleck in there, it is darker than just like a traditional red t-shirt. I know that's not a great explanation, but I don't quite know how to describe it any better. It is darker than just like a pure red, but it's not quite a burgundy. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to center the shirt, and this process is going to go really fast. But down below in the description for this video, I have a link to another video which shows how to center a shirt. Essentially what I'm doing is getting both halves of the front of the shirt right up next to each other and both halves of the back of the shirt right up next to each other. That way, whenever the shirt is completed, the front should look pretty much the same on both halves, and the same thing for the back. Okay, so now that the shirt is centered, I'm going to use a pastel chalk pencil that one of the viewers suggested to me. I'll leave a link down below in the description for this video for where I purchased it from Amazon. I'm going to wrap a piece of sinew around the pastel pencil and then place one end of the sinew on a mark that I made on the shirt where I'd like for the center of the burst to be. Then I'm going to draw an arc or half of a circle on the shirt. Now I'm going to fan fold this line and tie it with some sinew. I'm choosing to use sinew because I'm going to do a color removal process on this shirt. And because the sinew is wax coated, wherever I place a sinew line, the color from the shirt is going to remain underneath that line. So I will have some dark red lines on my shirt. After tying the initial line that I fan folded, I'm going to straighten my fan folds on either side of that line and tie more sinew lines. You can tie as many or as few lines in the shirt as you'd like to. I like to make my lines closer together as they're going in toward the center of the burst, and I like to make them further apart as they're going out toward the very end or the outside part of the shirt. For the color removal process, I'm going to use a product called Brite Laundry Whitener, and I normally find mine at Walmart on the laundry aisle. They put it by the bleach products even though it's not bleach. Thankfully, it doesn't damage the fabric the way bleach does either, and so it doesn't have to be neutralized in any way. I'm going to do this process outside because White Brite does have a smell, and I don't want that in my dye space. I'm also going to wear my respirator for the entire process because I don't want to inhale any of the fumes or the White Brite powder. I'm going to reverse dye quite a few items all at the same time, so I've placed them inside of a plastic tub or tote, and I'm going to liberally sprinkle the White Brite powder over the top. I like to do quite a few items all at once. I think this is probably the most items that I've done at the same time though. It takes a while to boil the water and to go through this process, so I like to make it worth my while by doing quite a few things at once. You can do a single item at a time though if you'd prefer. Now I'm going to pour a couple of pots of boiling hot water over the top of the White Brite. If you'll notice, whenever that hot water hits the White Brite starts to foam and it immediately starts to remove the color. Some of the items have the color removed quicker than others, and part of the reason for that is the color that the item is, and part of it is because some of the items are tied pretty tightly, like this shirt, and others are tied fairly loosely. Ideally, I would love to have all the items submerged in the Out White Brite solution, but because I've placed so many items in this tub, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to use a pair of metal tongs, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store, and move the items around inside of this container. I'm going to take the items from the bottom, place them on the top, and try to rotate them so that each item gets well saturated. Then when the item has had the color fully removed, I'm going to place it inside of another tote and take it to my utility sink and rinse that item in cold water. And then I'm going to place the item inside my washing machine. By the way, I'm leaving these things tied for this entire process. Once I have all the items rinsed and in my washing machine, I'm going to wash them using a cold water cycle and a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent. When I wash the items, it helps to get out some of the residue from the Out White Brite and some of the smell. Then I'm going to place the items down inside of a soda ash solution and allow them to soak for 20 to 30 minutes. I want to make sure they get very well saturated down inside the center. Then I'm going to spin them out of my Panda spin dryer and place them aside to allow them to dry out. Some of the items inside of this tote are tied thin enough or loose enough that they're not a thick fold. So I technically could go ahead and dye those while they're still damp. This shirt, however, is a thick enough fold. I want to allow it to dry out completely before I go ahead and start applying the dye. I think I get better color saturation when a shirt is completely dry when I start applying the dye. And if you'd like some more information about this topic, I have a tie-dye blog out on my website, and I have a link to my website down below this video in the description. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speed this part of the video up, but you've been watching it at real time, and so you see how quickly it really does remove the color from some of these items. I wanted to mention too that the soda ash solution that you use is probably not going to be reusable after you soak these reverse dyed items. Whenever I reverse dye items or I soak items that have been previously dyed in a soda ash solution, some of the color comes out into the soda ash solution. In this case, that blue dress that you see sitting on top of the tub of reverse dyed items, part of the blue from that came out into my soda ash solution. I've included a photo at the end of the reverse dye process so you can see what the soda ash solution looked like after I soaked all these items. So I don't like to reuse that soda ash that is tinted a color, and sometimes after a reverse dye process, it will kind of have a funky smell. So I normally just dump it out and mix up a new soda ash solution to use for white items. So after the color removal process, this shirt didn't turn a really light taupe. It kind of has almost a green cast to it. And I think that has to do with that heathered look or that darker fleck of color that was in the shirt. So because of that, the colors that I was initially wanting to use are probably not going to work. I've decided to try some blue colors because I figured that blue paired with red lines would look really cool. And then because, like I said, it does have a little bit of a green cast to it, the green would go well with the blue as well. I'm going to go ahead and incline ice dye this shirt. So I've placed the shirt down inside of a piece of vinyl guttering, and to keep the shirt from sliding all the way down to the bottom of the guttering once it's inclined, I'm going to tie a piece of kite string around the end, and then I'm going to clip the kite string to the end of the vinyl guttering using a metal clip. This fold is a little bit tall right in the middle too, so I'm going to take some plastic cutting boards from the Dollar Tree dollar store, cut them into strips, and slide them down alongside the guttering and then hold them in place with some wooden clothespins. That'll give me a little extra height where I can add some ice. Then, because the shirt is completely dry, I'm going to lightly spray it with a little bit of soda ash solution that I've placed inside of a spray bottle. That will help for the dye to stick to the shirt a little bit better. I'm going to apply a dye color to each one of the sections that I formed with the sinew. I'm starting with Strong Navy from Dharma Trading Company, followed by Blue Linen from Dye Spin, Dharma's muck dye color called Be More Pacific, which you probably can't get that any longer. That was a special 2024 spring color. Followed by Even Song from Dye Spin, Deep Space, and then Grecian Sea from Dharma Trading Company, and Ice Dyed Blue from Dye Spin. I have more sections that I have dye colors, so I'm going to reuse the same dye colors in some of the other sections. Once I have all the dye on the shirt, I'm going to go ahead and place a little bit of additional dry soda ash over the top and then add on a layer of ice. To incline the shirt, I'm taking a tub or tote that has pretty tall sides, and I'm going to place one end of this vinyl guttering down inside of this tub or tote. I'm going to leave the other end hanging over the edge. I've placed a small wiffle ball down in the bottom of this vinyl guttering just to help keep the shirt from wanting to slide a little bit more. I know I tied the kite string up at the very end, but this is a little extra support for the shirt. Then I'm going to touch up the ice and place the shirt aside and allow the ice to melt. I added about 3 layers of ice to this shirt, and then after all the layers of ice melted, I just allowed the shirt to process and left it for about 24 to 36 hours before I began rinsing it. To rinse the shirt, I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the shirt and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a long time, I went ahead and ran some really hot water in my utility sink, added some Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, and just allowed the shirt to soak. I added this shirt in with several other reverse dyed items that were similar in color and allowed all of them to soak at the same time. The Blue Dawn dish detergent will keep any of the dye that has soaked out of the items from rebonding onto the item or onto another item. When the water cooled off, I changed it out and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I put the items along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and I washed them using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed this shirt, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one looks really cool. I like the red lines paired with the blues and teals. And if you remember, I didn't really add teal, but because the shirt reversed to kind of a greenish type color, when I applied the blue dye, it turned it a little bit teal, which is kind of what I was expecting. That's the reason why I used blue instead of a color that wouldn't have paired very well with that green hue. So I ended up with fairly good color saturation on this shirt. I have a few areas where you can still see the original reverse dyed color, kind of right in the middle portion of the shirt. Thankfully, I like the color that the reverse dye process gives, and so I don't mind it on this shirt. I also like the way my lines are further apart toward the outer portion of the shirt, and they get closer together as I go in toward the middle of the shirt. I just think that's something interesting to look at. I also like the kind of dark feel of this shirt. You know, the red was a darker red, and when I did the reverse dye process on it, you can't really tell that it had that darker fleck in it. But the red now looks burgundy, where it didn't before. So what do you guys think about this shirt? I really like it, and I think it looks really cool. But what do you all think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it, and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.